This is Dr. Jones checking in. This is a video lecture for A&P 2, lecture test 1, video 4. Video 4 now. Get the lid off. 4. Okay, for Del Mar College with Dr. Jones. Okay, so we left off, we finished page 8 on the note set, and now we're on page 9. So, salt and sour receptors. We were in gustation. Let's get our laser pointer. Excellent. So salt and sour receptors are, fill in the blank, sodium leak channels, top of page 9. And stimulation produces depolarization, which we expect anytime we have a sodium channel. And that causes the release of chemical transmitters to a sensory neuron. The sweet, bitter, and umami receptors. The molecule binds to a membrane receptor, which activates an attached G protein. The G stands for gustussin. The activated G proteins activates a second messenger, and there are a number of different second messengers, and we don't care. Oh, look, they're second messengers. Yay. Beyond the scope of this course. And that changes the release of the chemical transmitter to the sensory neuron. Almost like we've heard that last one before. Ooh, that looks interesting. The transmitters bind to the sensory receptors in the sensory neuron membrane. If threshold is reached, a generator potential generates action potentials in the sensory neuron. How does that presence of a synapse affect sensitivity? It gives you a chance for facilitation or adaptation, which is inhibition. So anytime you have a synapse, you have a chance to boost the signal or dampen the signal. Boosting the signal is facilitation, and dampening the signal is adaptation. Graded depolarization release of chemical neurotransmitter to the sensory neuron, generator potential in the sensory neuron, which generates action potentials until the stimulus is removed, and then we go back to resting membrane potential. Okay, eyeballs. All right, we'll make a link to eyeball videos. I think we've done this before. Video 4. Beginning, let's see, let's put page 44. Link, lab, videos. Okay, I wrote that down. So the palpebrae, which you know because you've watched the lab videos, are the eyelids of superior and inferior. The palpebral fissure is not a lab term, so that is new, and that's why I have it in bold. Let me move the mouse so you can see what I'm pointing at. And so the palpebral fissure is the opening where in between the eyelids. Okay. The medial canthus is where the two palpebrae, the eyelids, come together medially on the nose side. Quick word about, you know what, I could probably write on here. Okay, so singular versus plural. Have we talked about Latin endings? I know I talked about Latin endings, but I think it was on one of the videos that had no sound. So the singular here is A1 palpebra, 2 is palpebrae, A-E. Now it's pronounced A, long A, long has a line over it, A, short has a smiley over it, ah. It's pronounced long A in ecclesiastical Latin, which is pretty much what I know. In classical Latin, the AE can be pronounced with a long E, palpebrae. So that is actually also correct, probably technically more correct, because the classical Latin is more the school Latin and the ecclesiastical Latin is more the church Latin, but I learned my Latin punctuations mostly from singing, so just mostly church Latin. Not a lot of songs in science Latin. Oh, you know what we need? We need more Latin music, but like science Latin. It would be fun. Well, it's the COVID times. We got to do something for fun, right? Okay, so the medial canthus, as you may know, where the two eyelids, ooh, that's spectacular. I'm going to do this from now on. And the lateral canthus is the outer corner of the eye. Also, you see that makeup there? Don't ever do that. That's wrong and not sanitary and gross. So this is a mucous membrane, and that is too close to the mucous membrane. That makeup can get into the tears and then drain and get caught, and that's and clog your little ducts and cause infections and no. So the makeup pen color black. The makeup goes here and here and on the eyelashes, okay, but not here. X. That's an X for don't do it. All right. Back to red because the red was fun. Okay, here. Boom. Don't do it. All right. So the tarsal glands are they secrete a lipid-rich product that keeps the eyelids from sticking together and forms a slick over the tears to keep them from drying out. So your tears are about the same saltiness as the ocean, because that's, evolution and all. And to keep the tears from drying out, because salt water does dry out, we make an oil slick that covers that liquid that covers the eye, and that helps keep it from drying out because oils don't evaporate like salt water does. The lacrimal caruncle is this fleshy bit in the corner, and it makes sleepies, which, yes, some people insist on calling eye boogers. I know. I don't have written down the difference between the chalazion and the stye. They used to be the same thing, but they're different now. So please double check the book for that detail that I don't know off the top of my head, because we're doing Canvas tests this semester that I am recording this. It's still a test question. Yeah, need to know. So the iris is the colored part of the eye, can be blue, green, brown, gray, violet if you're in a romance novel. The pupil is the hole in the center of the iris, and it's not a black structure. It is a hole that allows you to see into the cave of the eyeball, which is not lit from the inside. So that's why your pupil is black. So actually, we humans used to think that like your eyes were like radar, where like light came out of your eyeball and bounced off things, and that information went back in. But no, that's not how any of it happens. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Uh, so what happens is the light bounces off of everything and then goes into your eyeball and is seen. So we'll cover that in much greater detail. And then the sclera is the white of the eye. Next. The conjunctiva is the membrane. If you have conjunctivitis, that's pink eye. There are two parts of the conjunctiva, the palpebral and the ocular. So the palpebrae are the eyelids. The palpebral conjunctiva is this layer here on the inside of the eyelid. Remember in grade school that kid, or maybe you were that kid, that would flip their eyelids inside out? Yeah, that's the palpebral conjunctiva. And then on the surface of the eyeball itself is the ocular conjunctiva. But you see how it only covers, I'm pointing, you see how it, you can see where I'm pointing. You see how it only covers the sclera, which is the white of the eye. It does not cover the cornea, which is the clear bubble on the front of the eye. Hey, I can draw lines. That's just gonna get confusing fast. And this is the lens inside the eyeball, and it functions to change the angle of the light rays to focus them primarily right here on your fovea. The retina is, okay, I'm switching to the laser pointer so I don't have to mark up everything. The retina is this layer here. You can see the outer layer has got the sclera. The middle layer is going to be the choroid. That's this term right here, CH choroid. And then the innermost layer is the retina. And so this whole peachy pinky layer here is the retina. The ora serrata is the anterior edge of the retina. It's where the retina ends, and it's bumpy like a serrated knife. The choroid we mentioned is this middle layer. It's part of the vascular layer. The sclera and the cornea together are the fibrous outer layer. The ciliary body is another part of the vascular layer. The choroid continues with the ciliary body, and where it changes name is at the ora serrata. So choroid, 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 ora serrata. Now this whole wedge bit is called the ciliary body, and this right here will be your 3D section of the iris. So this is iris, ciliary body, and choroid. And you can see here, since this is cut open, the ciliary muscle are the pink stripes in the ciliary body. The optic disc is the white circle in the back of the eyeball. It is a blind spot. I'm off screen again, aren't I? It is a blind spot because it is all axons of the ganglion cells, and there's no photoreceptors there. So blind spot, just axons, no photoreceptors. And the fovea we already drew in red is that little indent on the model. It's yellow on a couple of the models and an indent on all of the models. And that is the site of best vision. It's where you have the most acuity, which is clearest vision. And that is, if you're reading, then that is focused on your fovea. The corneal limbus is now called the corneoscleral junction, and it's this line right here where you go from see-through cornea stuff to white opaque sclera stuff. So it's right here and right here. Now this is a section of a circle. So it'd be like if you had a donut and you took like a little slice, you'd have two circles, circle, circle. And this is the same thing. So this is actually a circle of corneal limbus or corneoscleral junction. Yeah, I think that's the new term. And then the scleral venous sinus is used to be the canal of Schlemm, and that's this tube right here set at the level of the corneal limbus or corneoscleral junction. And it also is a circle tube that goes all the way around the level of the corneoscleral junction. And its function is to drain the aqueous humor. And if it doesn't, then you get glaucoma. And we will talk about all of that when we get there in the note set. Okay, and what do we have here? Conjunctivitis is pink eye, inflammation of the conjunctiva. The lacrimal apparatus is on the next page, but let's cover fornix. We skipped fornix. So there's actually one layer of conjunctiva and it just folded over, and where it folds over it makes a little pocket there, and that is the fornix. And you can actually get stuff caught in that fornix. There was a year or two ago a story about an English lady who like kept waking up in the morning like to take her disposable contacts out, couldn't find them, and just put another set in and like had a weird feeling, and so went to the eye doctor and they found like, I don't know, I think 23 like pairs of contacts, and the yeah, it's amazing that she did not get an infection and lose an eyeball. So change your contacts. Okay. Scleral venous sinus. Yeah, in the fornix. Yeah, fornix, the little pocket. And then the lacrimal apparatus is this whole shebang that makes and drains your tears. And lysozyme is a enzyme in your tears. And I forget what else I would normally say about that. I haven't done this in a month. So, what muscle? Well, let's cover these really quick. The lacrimal gland right here makes your tears, lagrima, for like tears, lacrimosa, crying. And these are the little tear ducts. They go into the top side of the eyeball here, and they are drained by these two little holes in the corners, the lacrimal puncta. Now, I always thought that these two little holes, or specifically that bottom one, made the tears, because there's always like a little pool of tears right there, but no, it drains the tears. The tears are made superiorly under that bone, under the frontal bone, and drain out these two tears. For puncta, I always think the word puncture, like holes. So there's two little holes, and they drain the tears out these little canals. The little canals are canaliculi, just like the canaliculi we had in the bones in 2401, into the lacrimal sac, the tear sac, and then it goes through the nasolacrimal duct into the nasal cavities. As I said in the lab videos, that's why when you're bawling, boo-hoo-hoo, you have to blow your nose, because your tears are coming out your nostrils. My 14-year-old has enormous nostrils. He makes this face where he's like, and his like nostrils are like half his face, and he's like, he's pretty, and then he makes this like nostril face, and he does it for like strangers as part of his get to know you routine, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, I'm never having grandchildren. And then my 11-year-old's like, well, I'm gonna adopt children. I'm like, sold. So there you go, nostrils. Also, it's somewhat late at night and I'm getting off topic. So moving on. The muscles around the eyeball, the extraocular muscles, you have intraocular muscles inside your iris and in the ciliary body. But let's talk about the extraocular muscles, the muscles on the outside of the eyeball that attach to the white of the eyeball, the sclera, and they move the eyeball around. So you have the ones that go straight back, just like the abdominal rectus and the rectus femoris. They go straight back, superior rectus, inferior rectus, medial rectus, lateral rectus. And then you've got two diagonals that go diagonal, like your obliques on your abs are diagonal, and the external and internal oblique muscles. And here, this diagonal one across the top is the superior oblique, and this diagonal one across the bottom is the inferior oblique. And those are the 6 extraocular muscles that move your eyeball around. You can also see here the superior rectus. Above the superior rectus is the levator palpebrae superioris muscle, levator palpebrae superioris, and it elevates, it raises the upper eyelid, palpebrae superioris, the superior eyelid. So it elevates, levator, palpebrae, eyelid, superioris, superior eyelid. See? Okay. So we are on page 10 of the note set, and I'm leading into what muscle closes the eyelids. That's the orbicularis oculi from 2401. What muscle raises the upper eyelid? And that's right here. It's the levator palpebrae superioris muscle. How are nutrients delivered to the cells of the cornea? And that will be the lacrimal apparatus. They are delivered in the tears. And why do you not need to wash your eyes with soap and water? They are self-cleaning structures. Please do not wash them with soap and water. Another self-cleaning structure, because we do tend to have a lot of parents in the group or people who will eventually be parents, if you so choose, and you do not introduce yourself to people by giving them a face that's like half nostrils. Don't do that. Then if you have kids, you may need to know how to deal with a baby's penis, how to clean it. Now, there's lots of information to be had for how to clean a circumcised penis. And if you have an open wound in the diaper with the poop, then you sure as everything that is holy have to keep that thing clean. and it's a thing, and lots of information about that. Um, at least when I had my kid, 15 years ago, there was 14 and a half. There was slightly less information to be found about how to care for an intact penis, a penis that has not been circumcised, that has been in the diaper with the poop. So it is also a self-cleaning system. And to clean the baby, you wipe like it's a finger, and that's it. The one thing you don't do with an intact baby male is to retract the foreskin forcefully. That can cause phimosis, which can cause an infection in babies that are intact. The foreskin is attached to the glands, the head of the penis, and we'll cover all of this again at the end of the semester, and I will test you over these terms. Um, the foreskin, the prepuce, covers the glands of the penis. It's attached like your fingernails attached to your finger. And so if you forcefully retract that, you break those connections, like breaking a fingernail off, like at the fingernail off the bed. And so that causes an open wound, which then tends to heal with fibrous connective tissue and scar tissue because you have damaged the person. Also, don't do that. Um, and then it gets adhesions, and then they're like, well, then they need a circumcision because of the scar tissue caused by you damaging them. The other thing you have to watch out for with intact males is the doctors, because the textbooks still mostly say that the foreskin should fully retract by the age of 2, which is bunk. And so many doctors, medical providers have no compunction, have no thought or guilt about forcefully retracting any child over the age of 2, which is wrong and can cause phimosis and infections and scar tissue and adhesions and cause actual problems that the baby would not have had. So don't allow anyone to forcefully retract your kid. Okay, they will do it themselves. Promise. All right, so self-cleaning system like your eyeballs. Okay, there's enzymes, there's tears, you don't put soap and water on your eyeballs. Very simple. Okay, and then there's room there for you to draw this picture. So let's draw the picture. Oh, wait. Where are we on time? And we got like 6 minutes left. Perfect. So we're going to up and W at the same time for the whiteboard. That did not work. It still didn't work. I changed the slide. Oh, it flickered. Yay! Okay, whiteboard. So we need a pen. Pen. Perfect. All right, we're going to draw an external eye with the lacrimal apparatus. Okay. External eye. And here's your nose. I swear that's a nose. Okay. Now does it look like an eye? Now does it look like an eye? Oh, wait. Should we do a 90s eye or an 80s eyebrow? Let's do a current eyebrow. Or we could do whatever I can draw, which is not much. Okay. All right. I am going to point to these things and tell you what they are called, and you can draw and label on your note set here. Okay. external eyeball. Ooh, lacrimal apparatus. So we have the, excuse me, let's go back to the pen. Okay, we have the superior palpebra, the inferior palpebra. I'll put dots on them. The palpebral fissure is this whole crack where you can see the eyeball when the eye is open. The iris, the pupil, sclera is the white of the eye. The corneal limbus is this line right here. The medial canthus is the inside corner of the eye. The lateral canthus is the side with the cat eye. The lacrimal gland is about the size and shape of an almond up under the frontal bone. The lacrimal caruncle is in the medial canthus. The lacrimal puncta are two dots. I can draw dots. And the superior and inferior lacrimal canaliculi. And then they drain tears into the lacrimal sac, and then it drains out the nasolacrimal duct into the nasal cavity, which I have not lined up well. There you go. I feel I need to give the iris more rays here. Okay. There you go. I drew an eyeball. I know, it was painful, but we got it. Okay, now we're going to un-whiteboard down W. Oh, no, that didn't. There. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what I just drew. All right, so the layers of the eyeball. We have 2 or 3 minutes left, so we can finish this page for sure. The 3 layers of the eyeball, you have the fibrous layer, the outer layer. It includes the cornea, the sclera. Where the cornea and the sclera meet are the cornea-scleral junction, which is the location of the sclerovenous sinus, also called the canal of Schlemm, capitalized S, because it was the guy's name. The middle layer is the vascular layer, or uvea. It has 3 parts: the iris, the ciliary body, and the choroid. And the difference here is this edge where the retina ends. The inner layer is the retina. It has the pigmented part and the neural part, and together that's the inner layer. Okay, so those are the 3 layers of the wall of the eye. The anterior cavity is filled with aqueous humor. It is divided by the iris into the, do I have these? No. The aqueous humor from here to here is the anterior chamber of the anterior cavity. And from the iris to the lens is the posterior chamber of the anterior cavity. So the anterior cavity has 2 parts, the anterior chamber and the posterior chamber. And then that's from the cornea to the lens is anterior cavity. And from the lens back is posterior cavity. Oh, I'm having fun marking up these slides. Lots of fun. The posterior cavity, or vitreous cavity, is filled with vitreous humor, which is made, no, vitreous body, which is made of vitreous humor. And draw a horizontal section of the eye. Just draw this picture right here, labeling the cornea, the sclera, the cornea-scleral junction, the iris, the lens. I hate writing with a mouse. Okay, lens. The anterior and posterior cavities to the lens, behind the lens, anterior and posterior chambers. From the cornea to the iris is the anterior chamber of the anterior cavity, and from the iris to the lens is the posterior chamber of the anterior cavity. Timer says stop, and we're at the end of page 10. So we got 2 pages done in half an hour. Okay. 2 pages. Okay, so on the top of page 11, we will come back to the same picture, probably without the lines. Yeah, actually, probably with the lines. We will come back to this same picture and talk more about the different layers. So this was kind of an overview of the layers, and we will come back and pick up way more detail about this exact same stuff. Okay. So this has been lecture video for ANP2, lecture test 1, video number 4, Notesets pages 9 and 10. And thank you, as always, for tuning in. The education must go on. Dr. J out. As soon as I find the command control escape. Command control escape. Have a good one.